Welcome to this latest edition of the Real podcast. I'm your host, Ril Dil Quinn, recording this on a Monday, 4/20, 2026. Hope everybody out there is having a wonderful day as we just try to I got hold on before we really start the podcast. I gotta give the winner credit. The winner is like Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, all wrapped into one. The winter, I. It's like, yo, I don't care if it's 90 one day and 95 the next, and 81. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I went out today. It's like, I'm like, yo, I guess my mind thinks that it should be like 75 to 80 degrees. And it's like, nah. The winter won't go away. It won't. This is I've been on this earth for 7 years now. I'm not even complaining at this point. I'm really not complaining. I'm just acknowledging the obvious that this is the strangest weather that I've ever witnessed in my lifetime. And I've seen snowstorms in late March and early April. Like I've seen a snowstorm on opening day of baseball, like a blizzard that kept me out of school back in 1997. So I've seen Christmas Day when it was like 65 degrees in Pennsylvania. I've seen that before. I've never seen no shit like this ever in my life. So hey, listen, uh, it is what it is at this point. I'm like I said, this is not me complaining at all. It's just acknowledging what is happening with this weather from from day to day, week to week. Episode 1049, protection and healing. This will be a very heavy episode. Trigger warning: we will be discussing what transpired in Shreveport, Louisiana, yesterday, uh, with the murders of eight kids and the shooting of two people. We will be discussing the murder, suicide, um, Serena Fairfax and Justin Fairfax. So, anybody just giving you a heads up for anybody that, you know, for anybody that it might give trauma, for anybody, any victims out there who've dealt with domestic abuse or know somebody, or I'm just want to give you a heads up on that. But we begin with the NBA. You had about from shit, Thursday, uh, Thursday, Friday. You have just a bunch of basketball, like 10 games over the course of the weekend from like Thursday through Sunday when we include the play-ins. Well, I'll make it to the play-ins. I'll be honest with you. The play-ins is like, they count, but they don't count. I'll begin with last night's, with yesterday's action, excuse me, with Saturday's action. And the series that everybody had been looking forward to, well, when the playoffs came about, and that was Denver, Minnesota. Denver takes game one, um, 116 to 105. This was a game that was tied at halftime. Denver had a big third quarter, outscored Minnesota 39 to 22. And that was a theme over the weekend with the NBA. With somebody with a lot of these games, one big quarter swung a few games during this opening weekend of the playoffs. Listen, there are things to like. I'm gonna deal with the Minnesota perspective first. If you're Minnesota, you only have to get one of these games. So yeah, two bites at the apple. If you take the half glass full approach, you held Joker in check for the most part. He had destroyed you this season, including the 55-point triple double on Christmas Day. Um, Jamal Murray is not going to have another game where he shoots 19 free throws. Um, You had a bad game out of Anthony Edwards. Is that going to happen again over the course of the series? So there's some, and again, you were in this game up until the latter part of the third quarter. The thing that's problematic for Minnesota and where you have to be static if you're Denver is Denver. That was not Denver's A game offensively. Denver offensive rating for that game. Um, look up here. Denver's offensive rating for that game was like 113.4. For the season there, they were in the 120s. So if you're Denver, you have to be saying to yourself, like, we held Minnesota to a 102.6 rating when that was our weakness during the season. Defensively, 22-point third quarter. You held Anthony Edwards in check. Um, you have to be, and you have to be excited about how your defense played. That was the one big question mark about Denver the entire season. I told you on this podcast yet last week. You cannot gauge Denver's defense without Aaron Gordon. It was just stupid to gauge it without Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon's on the floor. They're a totally different. They are a completely different defensive team. So, and we saw that over the course of this game. Um, the Minnesota wasted a brilliant performance from Rudy Gobert, like the best performance I've seen him play going up against Joker by far. Excuse me, by far, by far. And I thought Gobert's defense on Joker was great. Forced Joker to 5 turnovers. Really, Joker did not get comfortable. Um, Again, he put up this is how ridiculously talented he is, and how how great of a player, how reason why he's one of the top 15 greatest players of all time right now. He puts up a 25-point triple double on about 58% shooting, and we consider and you can look at it as a average to slightly mediocre game for Joker. That is a career game for 99% of players who in the play who play basketball in a playoff game. If I give you those numbers, 99% of players that have ever played will not put up those type of numbers as far as a triple double, an efficient triple double with a win. So or 90%, 95, 90, whatever. That that is a career playoff game for most guys. For the majority of players. Slightly average to mediocre game for Joker. So we know he's capable of 35, 20, and 10. That was not like why was that a winnable game for Minnesota? I'm not gonna say like Minnesota like had moments where you thought they could possibly win the game, but for the most part, Denver outplayed Minnesota in that game and deserved to win that game. Again, if you're Minnesota, the idea is to get one. You need Anthony Edwards tonight to be like you need a 30 to 35 point performance out of Anthony Edwards. You need Anthony Edwards to be the maybe the best player on the floor in this game. You really do. Because that's the only chance that Minnesota has in this series. Again, I don't expect like I said, for Denver, excellent defense. Joker can be better, and Jamal Murray continues to dominate Minnesota. So those are three things that you had going for you, um, going into tonight. Minnesota can like this is, and I hate to sound like hate to state the obvious, but this Minnesota cannot beat Denver 4 out of 5 times. They cannot get down 2-0 even without home court advantage. They're not beating Denver like I said 4 out of 5 times. It's not happening. I expect Minnesota to win game 3. This is the game right here. Like this is the game. You win this game, you win game 3, and then we'll see what we have. We'll see what happens. I don't expect Minnesota to win 3 straight games in this series, but the formula to me moving forward would be for Minnesota to win this game, win game 3, probably lose game 4, and find a way to either win game five or game seven. We're still game five and win game six probably. Hard pressed to ask them to win game seven on Denver's home court twice in the last 3 years. That's a lot to ask. A lot. It would be a lot to ask. So it's still this series is still in. It's still this series still can be won by Minnesota. Game two is always a telling game in a series as far as adjustments. Game one, a lot of times, is the fill out game. Game one is the game where the home team should win. Denver was favored in this series, so they actually absolutely should have won that game. But looking at the box score, you need again Minnesota. Anthony Edwards 7 of 19 is not that's not enough. And I thought he settled for too many jump shots. 9 3-point attempts. When the threes outnumber the free throw attempts, that's problematic. So he takes nine threes and only 7 free throws. Did have 9 rebounds, did have 9 rebounds, 7 assists, and 3 blocks. I'm not. It's not like he was horrible. It's not like he was horrible and his presence wasn't like on the floor. I'm not saying that, but he's the guy. He's a superstar. This guy is going to be probably well. He's not eligible, but would have been at least second team All NBA. He's a top 10 player, top 7 to 8 player in the league right now. He's a tremendous player. Like the standard for him is high. He's got to play. He has to play at a certain level for Minnesota to even have a chance on this in this game. 14 shots for Jay McDaniels is a bit much for him. That's a lot. That's a lot of shots for Jay McDaniels. Um, the Sumu played well for the most part, even though he was a -8. Nas Reed, Nas Reed sometimes could be feast or famine. He was horrible in this game. 5 points. That is. I mean, you need Nas Reed around somewhere between 15 to 18 points. Like 5 points, he was dreadful, getting dumb fouls. Um, only played 17 minutes, by the way. Listen, Minnesota can play better, but the scary part for if you're Minnesota, so can Denver. Cleveland, Toronto, similar to Minnesota, the Minnesota game. Cleveland took control in the third quarter of that game, outscoring Toronto 36-22. Um, but again, all is not lost if you're Toronto. If you're Toronto, you look at the performance. The great thing if you're Toronto is you shot 50%, 52% from the field, 48% from the 3-point line, and went to the foul line 35 times. Missed 9 free throws, which is too many. Scored 113 points. Obviously, defensively, they had no answer. Excuse me, no answer for Cleveland. Cleveland made 16 3-point shots. We know Uh, Cleveland can be a overpowering 3-point shooting team. Donovan Mitchell continues the streak. I think he scored 30 points in like 9 straight playoff games. James Harden was in total control, 22 points, 10 assists. You get from him. Uh, you got nice games out of Mobley and Allen, efficient games out of those two. Um, so again, this game, but similar to the Minnesota game, like this game was decided in the third quarter. This game was absolutely decided. It was decided in the third quarter. Minnesota. Again, I don't think Toronto can win this series. Uh, and I don't think they will win this series. But we were right there. Um, you're down what 7 at halftime, and then next thing you know, the floodgates open during quarter three, in the third quarter. And again, this was a game that Toronto, Cleveland basically controlled from like the latter part of the second quarter throughout the rest of the game. The fourth quarter was, whatever. Like the fourth quarter, they kind of took their foot off the wheel, took their foot off the wheel. If Toronto's going to have any chance in this game, you can't have a situation where you get like, eh, I mean, next to nothing out of Jacob Pearl. Pirtle. Um, so you get next to nothing out of him. You waste a nice performance out of R.J. Barrett. So you need more out of Pirtle. But mainly, it wasn't even about their offense. It's defensively. You give up 126 points in a playoff game. You're not going to win too many of those playoff games giving up that many points. Again, Cleveland, when Cleveland doesn't make threes, they struggle to. They're not a great half court offensive team. I know they're more improved with James Harden in there since the James Harden trade from a half court offensive standpoint with some of the stuff that he can do with the lobs and the floaters and the step backs. But Cleveland wants to beat you from the 3 point from the 3 point line. That is how they make their living. That's how that's how they win the majority of their games, shooting a lot of threes. You gotta keep Cleveland. You got to run them off the 3 point line. Again, I don't I thought this was 4-5, but I thought that Cleveland clearly had a distinct advantage over over Toronto. We'll see if they can force Cleveland to take in driving to the basket or taking some long twos. But Cleveland got up 32 3-point shot, 32 threes for them. You know, you want that number. That's not a bad number. They just got too many good looks. Uh, Harden, Schroeder were killing them with dribble penetration. They have to keep those guys out out the paint. I mean, Dennis Schroeder, had a couple of assists, but it seemed like even in his limited minutes that he was living in the paint. And again, James Harden absolutely controlled this game from start to finish. I know he had 4 turnovers, but they really, he really set the tone for them, set the tone for Cleveland. But I think if you're Toronto, I mean, Toronto, you bring the same offensive effort, but the defense has like you can't defend like that. Giving up 16 3-point shots in a playoff game, you're not going to win too many playoff games. Giving up that many 3-point shots. So tonight, and of course, you had two roadkill. There are two roadkill series that I'm just going to get out the way now. Sixers and Suns are absolutely toast. Those series will have little to no interest. We know how dominant uh, Boston and Oklahoma City were down the stretch. A lot of people think that can obviously there are few people that think that can be the NBA final preview. But those two teams, Sixers and Suns, absolutely have no chances in those series, and could be on the could both. I would not be surprised if either one. I think Toronto. Excuse me. I think Oklahoma City absolutely is going to sweep Phoenix, and would not be surprised if Boston sweeps the Sixers. One thing I will say about Boston is if they get that version of Jason Tatum, they can beat anybody, including Oklahoma City, Denver, or San Antonio. They can play with anybody in the league, getting that version of Jason Tatum. Now it's only game one. It's only game one. We'll see if he can, has the stamina to make, over the course of 2 months, and things will get real in the second round. In the second round with a possible matchup that they will have against more than likely the Knicks. But I thought Tatum was spectacular, and they have, him and Jalen Brown play so well together that they take turns in a good way. Like it was Jason Tatum set the tone in the first half. It was Jalen Brown in the third quarter. New York, Atlanta. So the one upset that we did get, as it was a weekend where home teams dominated, going 7-1. Orlando, Detroit. Here's what we said about Detroit all season long. What are they lacking? Shot creation. In this game, Detroit goes outside of Cade Cunningham. Their guards were just it was a horror show outside of Cade Cunningham. Their guards It's not like Orlando offensively. uh, Detroit's the offensive rating was only 103. Orlando's was decent at 114, but you can't have guard. You can't have your guards. Detroit's guards. You have Duncan Robinson 3 for 8. You have Denise Jenkins. Denise Jenkins 1 for 7. This is the thing that was baffling to me. How Jalen Duran only got 4 shots. I listen. I thought the Orlando strategy and the game plan was phenomenal. Hey, Cade, take all the shots, and we will limit. We'll just shut everybody else down. So take all the shots. We know you don't have great shot creators outside yourself. Let make Cade score 50. Score. Can you score 50? Can you score 60? So we'll take Jalen Durant out the game. We don't trust any. We don't have any shot creators outside of Cade Cunningham. Arthur Thompson is a defensive player. He probably will finish a distant runner up or maybe probably third in defensive player of the year. Will definitely be first team all defense. Had a better year defensively than his brother, Amen, this year. Um, but the rest of those guys, I mean, Ronald Holland only plays 10 minutes. Karis LeVert only played five, barely played. So he definitely Bickerstaff shortened the bench. He did play 9 guys, but ended up playing 11 guys, but really 9 got double digits in minutes. But no shot creation outside of Cade. You had to. I mean, if you again, Tobias Harris 15 shots, similar to Jay McDaniels. That's too many shots for Tobias Harris. I don't want Tobias Harris taking 15 shots with Jalen Duran should get the bulk of those shots. Take about 7 of those shots away from Tobias Harris and get him to Jalen Duran, and it still wouldn't have been enough. He only would have had 11 shots. Jalen Duran has to be around 13 to 16 shots in this series. Like the idea of him only getting 4 shots was just ridiculous. That can't be the guy on the season. He was your second best player. He averaged almost 20 points a game. Um, but again, outside of Cade Cunningham, no one else can really get him the ball. And that was the problem that we had. That was a problem all year long. All year long, we discussed Detroit, the lack of shot creation. And I thought, give Orlando credit. Orlando, after just a flat out embarrassing performance against, I guess the Sixers. It seemed like it was last Wednesday. It seemed like a long time ago. They just demolished Charlotte on Friday. Almost like the basketball guys were repaying LaMelo Ball for what he did to Bam Adebayo with that dirty play. Charlotte gets absolutely their doors blown off, and then Orlando comes back less than basically 36 hours later, 48 hours later, and handles Detroit. Really, a game where Orlando never that game was really not in doubt. To be honest with you, Orlando controlled that game from start to finish. Um, and frankly deserved to win the game. Orlando, listen, it's gonna be an interesting series because I'm not quite there. I'm not going to overreact to a game one, even a road win game one. But Detroit's offensive struggles kind of match up in they kind of don't match up with Orlando from a defensive. Like Orlando wants to play ugly basketball. That's Orlando's calling card. They can play ugly basketball. They don't want the game. They want the games to be, 101, 110, under 110 in the hundreds. Not the nine. Nobody plays in the nines, but the game is like 100 to 105, and the Longs doesn't get past 110. Orlando, can hang in there with Detroit. Um, but I thought, give Orlando a lot of credit. Bancuro, you know, Bancuro, Wendell Carter Jr. Those guys had big games. Um, Orlando definitely was a tougher team. They looked. Detroit looked lethargic to come out. Will I expect Detroit to win game two. This series will be determined in game three. I expect Detroit to really pound them in game two, to be perfectly honest with you. But that series that all of a sudden has some juice to it, um, at 1-1 with the 60 win Detroit Pistons. Um, as far as the what transpired in San Antonio last night, you very good game. Um, I give Portland credit. Portland never let go of the rope. Even when they got down, they made San Antonio earn it. Wembanyama, it comes down to they have Wemby. San Antonio has Victor, and Portland doesn't. If you're Portland, though, you take some stuff away. You got a good scoop performance. Um, Danny Avdia was tremendous as it's coming off a 41-point game against Phoenix. He again had another big game and really got the better of the guards, of San Antonio's guards. Listen, they're going to be shots. Portland's going to get open looks at some 3 point shots. They gotta make some threes to have any chance to even make the series somewhat competitive. They really had to make threes. That was the difference. That was the difference in the game. San Antonio made their threes. Portland did not. Portland did get some good looks. Did get some good looks, but listen, I think Portland. We knew what their issue was as far as having enough scoring, having a lack of scoring outside of Denny. Um, but I think towards the future for San Antonio that this was a excellent first round for them as far as if we're looking at them developing. It's they'll probably win this series in no less and no more than 5 games, maybe even a competitive sweep. I do think Portland gets one game more than likely a game three. But you can take some things away from that game if you're Portland. You were right in that game. Um, you were right in that game until things kind of broke loose in the third quarter. 61-59, had some opportunities to tie and take the lead, and then San Antonio goes on a run, and that was basically all she wrote. The one thing I will say, Portland cannot play a small lineup when Wembanyama is on the floor. They just he is just he's too tall. He's too athletic. They're gonna just throw lobs over the top, and he's gonna be catching. It's gonna be Lob City Part Two, but with him and whoever the guard that's throwing him the lobs. It's Castle or if it's Fox or whoever that's throwing him the ball, throwing him the lobs. They can't play a small. They can't play a small lineup. They cannot play a small lineup against Victor Wembanyama. It just can't. They just can't do it. So Cleveland probably more likely probably is going to have to get more minutes. I'm not saying Cleveland can guard Victor Wembanyama, but you need someone to deter those lobs. He caught way just too many easy dunk, way too many easy lobs over the top, especially against some of them against that smaller lineup. Um, so tonight, and getting back to Saturday with the Lakers Houston, I still don't have a feel on that series. Um, Durant didn't play. Uh, Lakers shot 60%. I don't like. I think Houston only shot like 37%. I still don't like. Can game two will give you game two will tell you somewhat if Durant does play. If Durant plays, game two will give you a direction of where this series could possibly go. I will say this that that win over Houston, this is going to be a dogfight. I don't see the series. I think more than likely, if Durant comes back, I think it's a 7 game series. Um, Regardless of whether or not Luca or Austin Reeves do come back, I think that the Lakers have some good momentum right now. They got some good mojo going as far as the energy is up. LeBron's in a nice rhythm. He was the best player on the floor, totally in control of the game. The numbers, I mean, I know he almost had a triple double, but the numbers really don't indicate how dominant he was as far as just being in control of everything, picking Houston apart with the passes, finding the shooters. You give Luke Kennard some confidence. Um, and Houston again, I can't gauge Houston's offense without Kevin Durant. It's just not fair. We know sometimes they can struggle with Kevin Durant. So I definitely can't gauge Houston without Kevin Durant. I would think that Durant they get an extra day off. They don't play till tomorrow night. I would think that Durant will be available on Tuesday. He had a knee situation during practice over the week. Um, and it really was a surprise to me that he didn't play. Kind of again injury that they must have kept just under wraps because it was like out of nowhere. Like Kevin Durant's not playing. Like okay, this is where we're at right now. So some decent action. Listen, I can't get to you. Don't overreact to some of the blowouts. The again, this has been a year with the NBA of the haves and the have-nots. There's a lot of power up top when we talk about OKC, when we talk about Boston, when we talk about San Antonio, and those teams like that. Denver as well. There's a lot of power up top. So you gotta be patient with the first round. In regards to Knicks Atlanta, it's very simple. And they said it. Barkley said it. Kenny Smith Barkley said it during the post game. You have to put tall players, size, athleticism on Jalen Brunson. You can't put quickness is not going to do it. He's going to cook anybody any close to his size. You got to put tall players on him. It's just like it's very simple. It is very simple. We've seen Sarah Thompson from Detroit bother him. We've seen Amin Thompson at times bother him. It's really that simple. It really is. Um, I think again, I don't think that series is going to be as competitive as people thought it's going to be. Like Atlanta in seven, Atlanta possibly going seven. I would say I thought the Knicks would win in 6 games, and it'd be like a 3-1 6 game series, maybe even five, but more than likely six games. But it will be a 3-1 series. I think the Knicks win tonight, split in Atlanta, and split in Atlanta. And maybe Atlanta can still a game five, and Knicks come back and close it out in game six. I don't see the series. I don't see the series going to 7 games. I really don't. Um, but Atlanta's got like how you have to put some athleticism on Brunson. Is really very much that simple to me. They have wings that can challenge Brunson. That can at least challenge Brunson. Make him shoot over the top of those wings of the quality wing players that they have. Um, so we'll see what happens with that game tonight. So you had a lot of some decent action. It was like I said, Wembanyama probably had the best performance individually over the weekend. Um, think about it. You need but again, you're gonna have to be patient with the playoffs. You're one round away from Boston, New York, San Antonio, Denver. So you gotta be patient. But even Houston, Detroit may have some juice. But San Antonio, Boston, New York, San Antonio, Denver, uh, on the series that we will be looking forward to in the next round if those are going to happen. I think it's more important for. I don't see either one of these teams coming back. I don't see any of these teams coming back if they go down 2-0. So I would say probably more important for Atlanta and Toronto to win, considering the fact that Minnesota is a veteran team, they're not going to panic if they get down 2-0. They could easily win both games at home and it'd be 2-2 game five. Minnesota, like Toronto, and if Toronto and Atlanta gets down 2-0, those series could be over in five, possibly. I still think Minnesota will have some juice, but I still it's way more important for Atlanta and Toronto to win tonight to have any chance of these being competitive series. As far as that, I'll say a couple things about the play-in. Or really one thing about the play-in, in regards to going to state. Um, Number one, it seems like again nothing's been announced. We'll see what transpires in the off season. Draymond Green, said today that it seemed like that was the end. You get the hug between between him, Steve Kerr, and Steph Curry at the end of that game. So maybe who knows? I mean, you can't gauge. I haven't heard anything from Steve Kerr. So yeah, I give these guys some time to process the season and a loss like that, even though it should have been expected considering the type of season that they had with all the injuries that they had over the course of the season. Steph Curry, after after a great game to get them in a position to where they could play for a playoff spot against Phoenix. After that game, no, excuse me, I'm sorry, against the Clippers, where Curry outplays Kawhi Leonard. Draymond goes back to being, at least for a night, vintage Draymond Green, shutting down Kawhi Leonard, especially in the fourth quarter, with just some spectacular defense. Made forced a couple turnovers and he picked Kawhi clean. You go there and just get completely embarrassed by Phoenix. Steph Curry goes 4 for 16, 17 points. And I say that because Steph Curry, by far to me, is one of the most protected superstars, one of the most protected all time great players that this league has ever seen. You go back since 2022. Well, let's go. Well, no, let's go 2020. Missed the playoffs in 2020, right? They losing the play in 21. They win the championship in 22. That was a great championship. Beat the Celtics. Um, Losing the second round to the Lakers in 23. Um, Again, losing the play in. I think losing the play in 24. And then last year, you lose in the first round, or excuse me, you lose in the second round. Um, you lose in the second round to Minnesota. I know they had injuries. They were not going to win that series. They probably wouldn't have won that series even if Steph Curry were healthy. Like to be perfectly honest with you, they were not contenders last year. Like they were not going. They were not. That wasn't a situation where you're like, oh, they could have won a championship. No. And then this year, you can't even get out the play in. So again, Steph Curry's since he's played in a lot of play-ins for a guy who's considered to be one of the top 10 players of all time. For a guy who's considered to be by some the greatest point guard of all time. Been in a lot of play-ins. So he gets. I'm telling you. And after that game on Friday, no criticism. There was zero criticism. It was about, hey, this could be it. It was kumbaya. It was, like almost like a funeral for basketball fans of Golden State. No Steph Curry Nash criticism whatsoever at all, at all. So I just wanted to make note of that. There has not been a more protected superstar in the history of the sport to me. All right, so real thoughts. Just one particular uh, topic to end the program, and of course, in the last really in all 2026, we have seen a just ridiculous number of black women, black women being murdered by partners. For the most part, um, we saw last Thursday. It came out in Virginia that Serena Fairfax was murdered by a former lieutenant governor, Justin Fairfax, in their home with their kids in the house. Um, One of the kids made the phone call, made the 911 phone call. He, of course, after he killed her, after he killed her, took his own life. Um, and then yesterday, Shamar Elkins murders 8 children, 7 of which were his. Also shot the mother of his children, and another woman who, thank God, both survived. Killed the kids execution style. Was a former Army Coast Guard, the national former National Coast Guard, excuse me. What did with the Serena Fairfax murder first? Um, when this happened, you know, me like a lot of people, was taken back, was completely was shocked by it. Um, I went online and I wanted to just kind of get a temperature of what people were feeling about it, especially black women, considering the type of year that has been with so many black women being murdered in 2026. And there was obviously, a lot of trauma. There was a lot of pain, a lot of anger, frustration on not just the death or the murder of Serena Fairfax, but how this situation, this murder was covered. Uh, a lot of women who thought that it was framed to make Justin Fairfax look like he was a victim by pointing out, by some alphas saying that he was a good guy, or by making him the center of the entire story and making Serena Fairfax, excuse me, an afterthought, like bringing up the fact that he was an alpha, bringing up the fact that he, you know, had a political career that crumbled, and all the bad things that happened to him. You saw Roland Martin post some pictures of Fairfax. He knew Roland Martin knew both Fairfax, Justin, and Serena. Had pictures of both. Pictures had multiple pictures of them, and the internet lit Roland Martin up, especially black women. Just destroyed him for the most part for posting those pictures, and even spilled over to criticize criticism of the 2 programs he had back to back days, Thursday and Friday, which dealt deep dive mental health. He had clinicians, he had 2 black doctors on, psychiatrists on Thursday, and 2 black women on Friday. And people never got past the pictures. The shows were fine. I thought the shows were very informative. I thought they were necessary as far as attacking what we need to attack in regards to mental health, domestic violence, femicide, which to me are all intertwined. To be honest with you, so I saw all this discourse online, uh, and I thought to myself, this is really not a time to engage in a back and forth, uh, even if I do disagree with some of the opinions from from these sisters. Like the grieving process is you're not people. It's been said you are. eh, you like when you're grieving a loss, you're not in. I ain't gonna say you're not in your right mindset, but it is a difference. It can be an out of body experience, and there were a number of women who had either been suffered domestic violence that spoke out, or had known somebody who had dealt with domestic violence. Like some of the stories I've heard have been just unbelievable stories. I heard a story where one sister, a prominent figure, was got actually got saved by her would be assassin. Like one of her ex partners hired a hitman to kill her, and the hitman didn't follow through on the job, and the hitman warned her that it all messed up when the hitman basically told her that he was supposed to was supposed to do this, and he didn't go through with it. And it's an unbelievable story, to say the least. It was a just just scary, incredibly scary story. So you see all this, and you think to yourself, "Ooh, what is the proper way to address this?" Ooh, you don't want to offend anybody. You don't want to. Uh, you want to create space for trauma, and but at the same time be authentic in terms of how you attack this issue that we have in our community right now. You see the names on the board on this board I have: Ashanti Allen, Victoria Alexander, Raven Edwards, Tiana Stokes, Gladys Johnson, Denisha Heller, Gabrielle Ayers, Serena Fairfax, Ashley Janae. All those women have been murdered in 2026. The majority of them, if not all of them, I believe, had kids, if not multiple kids. The majority of them were murdered by, with the exception of one, were murdered by their partners. With the exception, now again, Ashley Janae case in Zanzibar, I think in Tanzania, is still ongoing. She went out there with a partner who was a white man. Uh, During her birthday, celebrating her birthday, he proposed to her as well. There's still that's still an ongoing investigation. That doesn't look good for him. I think it's Joe McCann doesn't look good for him. It's too many. It's just I don't she I don't believe myself that she hung herself. So I don't believe that at all. We'll see how that plays out. But the point is, she's dead. She's no longer with us. So this situation or these situations, we can talk about, and there was again a lot of discourse with mental health versus domestic violence, questions whether or not you address which one you address first, questions whether or not you should address it at all and just focus and celebrate the lives of the women who have been murdered. And there's no perfect answer to this, but what I will say is there also is no time to not address these situations, these murders and these tragedies with intention. These are issues of patriarchy, domestic violence, mental health, mental illness, systematic racism, poverty, education. You know the Shamar Elkins of the world don't become like murderers overnight. Broken boys, unhealed boys become broken men and unhealed men. Period. Point blank. So you have to get, in order to flush out, to properly treat this, you have to flush out everything. Like Shamar Elkins, um, in the article that I read, and again, I think people were pissed off about how the New York Times um, not depicted him, but again, similar to made him out to be, seemingly, in their opinion, made him out to be a victim by bringing up his past in regards to his mother being a drug addict and his mother allowing someone else, giving him away to another for somebody else to raise him. So his mother's a drug addict. Somebody else raised him in Louisiana, right? Shreveport, Louisiana. We know Louisiana is one of the poorest states in the country and has one of the worst educational systems, excuse me, in the country. Period, point blank. And when you look at a Shamar Elkins, and you look at Justin Fairfax, the one thing again, we can go back and forth, and I frankly think it's a waste of time for the community to go back and forth arguing domestic violence versus mental health, and you know, there's mental health being weaponized to make these guys out to be victims. I don't believe it. It is, but the one thing that cannot be disputed is the fact that both these gentlemen, both these men, um, did not have the necessary coping skills to deal with whatever issues caused them to do what they caused them to murder. Um, in one case, murder their partner, and in the other case, murder uh, 8 children and shoot 10 people. That's undeniable. And this is like a war. This is a war on our community. This is a war on Black women. When we talk about domestic violence, femicide, mental health, and we have to fight. We need to throw everything at this, period, point blank. We have to have uncomfortable discourse. We have to have conversations about domestic violence, mental health. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me which one comes first. They both have to be had. They both have to be had. There cannot be a situation where we got to wait for some time to pass to have the conversations to allow the grieving process. We can grieve and have the conversations at the same time. We have to be able to do that. It's like literally, I'm telling you right now, literally, um, there are 22,000 acts of domestic violence daily, daily, not monthly or yearly, daily in this country. 22,000 daily. So I would say that this is an issue where it's going to have to be tackled from every angle. It is a nuanced conversation. You can't put these situations into a box. It can't be put in the box of domestic violence. It can't be put in the box of mental health. It can't be put in the box. It can't be put in any particular box. Period. Just can't. And we gotta deal with it as a community. And it begins with us as Black men, frankly. Our job is, and I will maintain it. And there might be people that disagree with me, might be brothers that disagree with me. Whoever disagrees, it doesn't matter. I don't worry about disagreeing whether you disagree or not. But our job as Black men is to protect Black women. Period. Point blank. But we can't protect Black women if we don't protect ourselves. Can't. It's not possible. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Real Deal podcast. I will see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your week. So long.